What is it that's holding you back, keeping you from becoming everything that God has created you to be, living your purpose and reaching your destiny? Is it self doubt, feeling that you don't measure up to others? Perhaps it's fear or lack of resources, offenses and challenges, maybe even past or current circumstances. Well, I want you to know that these are pathologies, diseases of the mind that negatively impact how you think and perceive things that invade your everyday life. You can overcome these peculiarities and become conquerors, living in the purpose that God has for your life. The Bible in Philippians 4:13 teaches us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Hello, I'm your coach Dee Johnson, and I'm going to share with you on how you can overcome these pathologies and be all that God created you to be on today's Watering the Seed. Seeds, welcome back to Watering the Seed. If it's your first time joining us, welcome to the channel and thank you for dropping in. Hey Seeds, today we're digging into something that may sting a little at first, but it will set you free once you embrace it. The purpose of people in our lives. See, not everyone who enters your life comes to stay. Some come as mirrors. They reflect back what you're not seeing yet about yourself. You know, your worth, your value, and sometimes your blind spots. And often that reflection isn't gentle. Sometimes it's toxic. That reflection isn't gentle. Sometimes it's toxic. Sometimes it's rejection. Sometimes it's abandonment. But hear me, and hear me good. Even their negativity carries a lesson. Yeah, you heard me right. Their negativity carries a lesson. Sound negativity carry a lesson? Well, Seeds, I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about it. You know, people dismiss you, they betray you, or consistently devalue you. You may consider them as being mean, uncaring, or just plain old bad luck, but they aren't that. They're standing in your story because somewhere deep down inside you, yeah, you've forgotten who you are. Now, let me explain. If you undervalue yourself, you'll tolerate the people who confirm that false story about you. Let's think about our workplace for instance. Story about you. Let's think about our workplace for instance. Let's take the workplace for instance. Ask yourself, is there someone there that validates your insecurity or false sense of self? You know, the false sense that you have about yourself. Maybe a supervisor or coworker have about yourself. Maybe a supervisor or coworker. And then how about in your daily life? A friend, a family member, mother, father, sister, brother, grandparent, uncle, aunt, you know, even your spouse, your partner, your lover. And then think about school for some of those of you who are still in school. How about someone at your church? Someone in your ministry? This can happen in any aspect of your life, in any relationship. If you question your own worth, you'll attract the ones who exploit that uncertainty that you have about yourself. There's, you know, softness, uncertainty, doubting your own strength, your value. They sense that thing. If you don't yet believe you're loved, you're capable of receiving love or even deserving of it, you'll find yourself sitting at a table with those who serve you scraps. Yourself sitting at a table with those who serve you scraps, even if they're sitting at your table. How about that? They're serving you scraps from your own table, a table you prepared. They're eating well and you get the leftovers. You've approved this behavior by not remembering your own value, how valuable you are. But here's the powerful flip. Once you remember your value, you naturally begin to disassociate from that energy. And watch what happens then. Watch from that energy. And watch what happens then. Watch what happens. Those people either fall away or they disappear. And why? Because your frequency has shifted. You're no longer a match for their chaos. You've changed. You're acting funny, they say. You're acting strange. You're acting like you have value. That's what you're doing. And you do. So once you've remembered who you are, don't ever forget it. Don't ever forget it because they'll check in from time to time. Be careful. And if they show up, if they show back up and you let them in, it's often because you temporarily misplaced your value again. But don't worry, life has a way of repeating lessons until we pass the test. Life has a way of repeating lessons until we pass the test. Believe me, I know, because I've experienced it firsthand in my own personal life as well as my professional life. In my book, Embracing Authenticity, I tell a short story called Jasmine's Journey. It's about a young woman who experienced this same thing, but when she began to set boundaries, she realized that her value was now being protected simply by setting clear boundaries. And this aligns with living a better way, a more authentic life. Living an authentic life means your passions and your beliefs. It's about designing or creating a life for yourself that feels meaningful and fulfilling, not based on societal expectations or external validation, but really rooted in you being your true self. And this, my seeds, is your value. This is your true self. And this, my seeds, is your value. This is your value. Living aligned with your values, it matters. It matters. It matters because it enhances fulfillment. You experience deeper satisfaction when your actions reflect your values. I want to touch on the story of Samson and Delilah. This is a really popular story. Some people may think it was a fable story, but it's a story from the scriptures. Okay, in the book of Judges, that's where it is, chapter 16. We meet a man named Samson. He's chapter 16. We meet a man named Samson. He's anointed from birth with unimaginable strength. This wasn't just any strength. This was divine strength, strength so great that Samson once killed a lion with his bare hands. Strength. But his power wasn't in his muscles, it was in his anointing. And that anointing was symbolized by his hair. It was a covenant between him and God, a visible reminder that his strength came from above. But here's the turning point. He didn't realize how sacred his strength was, how deeply it connected to his divine purpose, as many of us. So he entertained somebody, some woman, whose only intention was to exploit his anointing. Delilah. Her name was Delilah. His anointing. Delilah. Her name was Delilah. Samson was smitten, completely captivated. Despite the warnings of his parents, he fell for her charm. Delilah was beautiful, clever, and witty. Probably had that disarm make any man forget his mission. Smile. But her intelligence wasn't rooted in love, it was rooted in strategy. Delilah knew Samson's love for her ran deeper than his discernment, and that gave her leverage. That gave her leverage, knowing that. Now, here's a quick footnote about Delilah. Delilah wasn't of Samson's tribe, or she wasn't from the same town that he was from. He was from he was a Nazarite from Israel. She was from the Valley of Sorek, a place where Israelites and Philistines, a place where Israelites and Philistines often crossed paths because it was a trading place. And those cultural and spiritual differences bred tension and jealousy and conflict between the two groups. So when the Philistine ruler approached Delilah, simple, he wanted to use this weakness to destroy purpose. He wanted to use his weakness, which was Delilah to destroy Samson's purpose. And we see this a lot in life, when people see us, they feel some type of way about it and they want to take that from you. They want to destroy it. They want to dumb it down, shrink it. They have a problem with that. And this ruler of the Philistine ruler, he had a problem with he had a problem with Samson's strength, his anointing, and he used his weakness, which was Delilah, to destroy his purpose. So he approached Delilah with this plan, simple plan. And she agreed to this plan, no simple plan. And she agreed to this plan, knowing that this man loved her. Delilah's role was to expose what Samson couldn't see, his blind spot. His weakness wasn't just love. His weakness wasn't just love. It was misplaced affection for this woman. Revelation. Because in the end, Samson learned that his strength was never about his hair or a woman or validation. It was always about God's purpose over his life. And he learned that, but he learned it the hard way. So the lesson is, when you don't know your value, drain you and eventually betray you. But when you remember your worth and that it comes from God, that's the biggest thing. It comes from God. Then you stop inviting the Delilahs to dine at your table. Okay? Picture someone in a relationship. Okay? Picture someone in a relationship where the partner constantly puts them down, calls them too much, ignores their needs, disappears when things get tough. On the surface, it looks like cruelty, but underneath, it's a reflection. This person hasn't yet recognized it's a reflection. This person hasn't yet recognized their own voice. They haven't yet stood on the truth, knowing that they're enough and that they deserve to be loved without conditions. So they allow people to come in and break them down. Seeds. Let's sit with this for a moment. Let's sit with it for a moment. There will always be Delilahs in this world. And when I say Delilahs, I'm referring to the characteristics of this person. So I mean men and women. Okay? That characteristics come with men. Okay? And people who look like love but operate like lessons, they come wrapped in attraction, looking good, smelling good. They may be charismatic, a smooth talker, witty, funny, and seemingly open, sharing something very personal. To come open, sharing something very personal, to come across as trustworthy. They can be quite comforting with their love bombing, affectionate, sharing, giving their undivided attention. But their true purpose, expose what the Samsons of the world, and again, I'm referring to the characteristic. So Samson could be man or woman. Still entertaining within themselves their lack of self worth. The toxic partner is a teacher. The toxic partner is a teacher, teaching by contrast, showing them what happens when they forget their worth, showing you what happens when you forget your worth. We forget our worth. Samson's downfall wasn't Delilah's beauty, it was his blindness. He couldn't see that the danger wasn't what was being done to him, but what he kept allowing through him. Every time we ignore the red flag, justify the manipulation, or water down our discernment, red flag, justify the manipulation, or water down our discernment to keep someone close, seeds. We're cutting our own hair. We're surrendering our strength. And the moment we wake up to that truth, everything shifts. We leave, we grow, we attract healthier connections because now fullness, not emptiness. The moment you remember your value, your discernment sharpens. The moment you remember your value, your discernment sharpens. You stop mistaking chemistry for connection. You stop apologizing for your anointing. And you stop giving from your power, draining you, taking your power, shrinking you, taking your power. When Samson finally remembered who he was, even in his weakest moment, God still used him to fulfill his purpose. That means your strength isn't gone. It's just waiting for your awareness to wake back up. Okay? You still have your power, but you have to tap back into that thing. Align yourself with your purpose. Bring it back. Your purpose. Bring it back. So the next time someone walks into your life, don't just ask yourself, do they love me? Ask yourself, do they honor your purpose? And if the answer is no, you already know. You already know your anointing. Guard your peace. And never forget your worth was established by God, not negotiated by people. This is a God thing. This is a God thing. Seeds, here's the takeaway. Loving kindness, okay? Sometimes it's in the very pain they cause. They're mirrors, temporary teachers sent to press you back toward the truth of your value. So ask yourself, who's reflecting something I've forgotten about my worth? Something I've forgotten about my worth. Where am I re-inviting people who no longer deserve a seat at my table? What will I do differently when I finally accept that I am valuable, I'm worthy, and I'm chosen? Remember, worthy, and I'm chosen. Remember, when you know your value, you stop negotiating it. And when you stop negotiating it, the people who thrive on your insecurity, they fade into the background. Seeds, you're worth it. Your worth is non-negotiable. Don't let anyone teach you otherwise. You know, I want to go deeper. I want to go a little deeper because some of you are still probably asking, well, why me? You know, why is this happening to me, or why did that happen to me? I ask myself, why do I attract people who want to mistreat me when I'm always being nice, understanding, and helpful? Someone told me once, or thrice, meaning more than 2 or 3 times. I've heard it many, many times, but they told me I was too nice. I've heard it many, many times, but they told me I was too nice. And I thought to myself, well, if that's so, then is this punishment for being too nice? Right? Is this punishment? I know some of you feel me on this. I know you do. But let's a resounding no. Absolutely not. It's not punishment. It's purpose. It's your purpose. You feel deeply. You sense other people's energy before they say a word. You love hard. You forgive fast. See people's potential before they see it. And not just their patterns or the bad habits they repeat. You see their potential and you want to help. You feel like you need to help. That's because you help. That's because you were purposed for this. This is who you are. This is who God created you to be. To go out and help the other people in the world that don't see, that can't see, that refuse to see, that can't see, that refuse to see. This is your purpose. This is your assignment. Okay? They have a name for it. They have a name for us. They call a person like you, like me, an empath. You are empaths. Empaths who have not yet learned the art of managing our empathetic energy, which causes us to undervalue ourselves or not know our own worth. And when toxic people come into our lives, they come as mirrors showing us where toxic people love to target you, the empath, because your gift of compassion looks like an open door to their dysfunction. But here's the hard truth. It's not just that they choose you, it's that on some level you chose them too. Level you chose them too. Oh yeah, you chose them too. Why? Because you hadn't fully recognized your value. And until you do, you'll keep seating toxic people at your table and calling it love, calling it loyalty, or table and calling it love, calling it loyalty, or calling it alignment. But let me tell you, it's an illusion. You see, here's the tricky part. Sometimes you believe you're aligned. You think I'm giving, I'm loyal, right? Alignment isn't just about what you give, it's about what you receive in return. True alignment flows both ways. If you're pouring love and only receiving pain, that's not alignment. You're living in an illusion. It's found in mutual respect. It's found in relationships where your value is not just seen, it's honored. I did a full episode on people pleasing, episode 16, I believe. People pleasing versus serving people. Go back and have a listen if you haven't already. Go back and have a listen if you haven't already. Alignment is not found in people pleasing, it's found in mutual respect. True alignment flows both ways, people. Listen, again, if you're pouring love and only receiving pain, that's not alignment. It's illusion. And until you pain, that's not alignment. It's illusion. And until you understand this, you will repeat the cycle. You will continue to attract the same toxic people. You've seen people who are in and out of relationships, and it seems like every time they find a new person, that new person, a lot of qualities and characteristics like the previous person, and maybe the person before that. That's because they continue to attract the same type of people, toxic people, because they haven't fully realized who they are. They haven't realized their value and their worth. Repeating this cycle. I'm glad you asked. You learn to trust yourself more than you trust their performance. That's how. You learn to trust yourself more than you trust their performance. If the energy if the energy feels off, don't gaslight yourself into believing you're overreacting. Energy is math. When the numbers don't add up, it's because the equation is broken. Something's wrong with the math. The math ain't mathin', as they say. The math ain't mathin'. Pattern hurts more than it heals. Trust the pattern, not the promise. Don't just listen to what they're telling you, listen to the action. You've heard the saying, action speaks louder than words. It's true. If their actions don't match their words, this is poor performance. The acting is off. The is poor performance. The acting is off. The acting is off. I'm just thinking, have you ever seen a movie where a person is acting, but their movement and words don't match up with what you're seeing and hearing? Well, this is the same thing. Think of it that way. It's the same thing. I see this in movies. I feel extremely annoyed by these movies. And if it doesn't get corrected soon, I can't finish the movie. It feels too off. I can't stay in the flow or the lack thereof. I gotta go. I gotta go. but if, but if, but if the pattern hurts more than it heals, trust the pattern, not the promise. And then there is a spiritual side of it. And if you want to give it a name, let's give it a name. It's your intuition. It's a feeling. Intuition. It's a feeling. Yeah. Your intuition is spiritual. It's a feeling. It's God nudging us. We see things in dreams or we get that gut feeling. Don't dismiss it. The energy we talked about earlier, don't dismiss it or gaslight yourself into believing it's not what you think or feel it is, because it is. It's just what you think it is. It's just what you feel it is in your gut, your intuition. And you have to trust that. Wake up, your intuition. Wake up. Trusting yourself means you stop outsourcing your work to people who don't know what to do with it. Wake up. Wake up, people. Wake up, seeds. I love you guys. I really do. I just want you to get this. I'm not yelling or beating on you. I'm not yelling or beating on you or anything like that, verbally beating on you. I love you guys and I really want you to get this. So just know trusting yourself means you stop outsourcing your work to people who don't know what to do with it. I want you to wake up. Now let's talk about do with it. I want you to wake up. Now let's talk about what awake looks like. When you wake up, what does that look like? Awake isn't just seeing the red flags, it's choosing not to paint them white, not to ignore what you see or change it to fit a false. Just accepting what is there, ignoring the red flags. And even if somebody who's on the outside looking in, that's the way we like to put it, those who are on the outside looking in and they see that thing happening and they approach you with love, you ignore it. You ignore it because you are comfortable with the toxicity. No, wake up. Awake isn't just seeing the red flags, it's choosing not to paint them white, not to ignore what you see. Paint them white, not to ignore what you see or change it to fit a false narrative so that you're comfortable sitting in that toxic condition. Awake isn't just knowing your worth, it's embodying it in every choice that you make, decision you make, your energy out of alignment. Okay? Be careful not to shift that energy out of alignment. Awake is when you can look at someone you once begged to stay and say, I release you because I've reclaimed me. Choose you first. Stop apologizing for your standards. Stop shrinking yourself for acceptance. Okay? Seeds, when you live awake, you no longer audition for love. You no longer apologize for your standards. You no longer shrink to keep the peace. You live freely because you live freely because you've realized freedom isn't found in their validation. You don't need their validation. It's found in your alignment with God and your own values. Okay? Your own value, your own worth. Let's anchor because I'm reminded of a Bible story, the story of the Israelites in Egypt. It's found in Exodus 1. And there is also a movie that focuses on this story, one of the greatest movies of all time, actually. It's called The Ten Commandments, and it's starring the late Charleston Heston as the character Moses. And as the story goes, the Israelites were God's chosen people, but they didn't realize their worth. So they tolerated slavery for generations. Can you imagine? Generations. It's still going on in some of our generations right now, today. Mental slavery. Still going on today. Believing that's just how life is or was. And I know this resonates with some of you. I know it does. It is not. But let's continue with the story. So God used Pharaoh's toxicity to remind them, the Israelite slaves, that they were not slaves. They were God's chosen people, and they were free. God said, "You are not slaves, you are mine, you are free. You are not slaves, you are mine, you are free." The plagues, the oppression, it was ugly. God put it out there. But it forced them to wake up. It did force them to wake up. And once they remembered their identity, who they walked out of bondage into freedom. Who they walked out of bondage into freedom. And the lesson here is sometimes it takes the cruelty of others to wake us up to who we already were. Can you imagine? Can you imagine someone in a relationship where it criticizes them? The empath in them keeps saying, if I just love harder, they'll change. They think they're aligned because they're giving unconditional love. But eventually the weight breaks them. It breaks the empath, toxic behavior. Because as long as you allow it, it'll continue. And that's enabling them. That's enabling that toxic person, keeping them from coming to realization that there is something that they need to work on. Coming to the realization that they can be free from that toxic behavior. You're actually enabling them. You're keeping them from finding their own worth when you allow them to devalue you. But when the empath realizes that they are enabling the toxic person and that they are not aligned, that awakening, their awakening shifts everything. It shifts. Toxic people only thrive in environments where value is forgotten. When value is remembered, toxicity has no seat at the table. Not at your table, not anymore. Seeds, here's your reminder. Toxic people don't show up because you're weak. They show up to expose where you need to wake up. Something that you need to fix about yourself, something that you need to remember about yourself, and that is your worth and your power. They're lessons, not lifelines, okay? Toxic people are lessons, not lifelines, okay? Toxic people are lessons. They're not lifelines. When you recognize your worth, you stop begging for love in places that only offer pain. You stop mistaking illusion for alignment. You stop reinventing or people who were never qualified to hold your value in the first place. Aha. Okay? So today, stand tall in this truth and affirm that you are valuable, you are worthy, and you are free. Free. See, some people come to break you open, but others come to build you up. In my next episode of Watering the Seed, we're diving into those divine connections, the people who reflect your value, not your pain. So join me next time for our pain. So join me next time for our newest episode, The People Who Reflect Our Worth. It's all about the mirrors. It's all about the mirrors that remind us of our light. Okay, so please join me in that next episode. As we wrap up today's episode, I have to give my deepest thanks to you, my seeds, my listeners, my supporters. Every time you tune in, hit that like button or share with a friend, you help spread purpose and healing and growth. This journey wouldn't be the same without you guys. I'm telling you, it wouldn't be the same. So I love you all, and until next time, keep growing strong.